Hello, parents and coaches. My name is Scott Lindo. I'm an assistant coach with the Rice Lake Warriors baseball team, mental game coach for the Warriors, and multiple other teams in the surrounding area. Thank you for joining this meeting tonight. I have a couple things for us tonight. One, I want to talk quickly about some of the things that we do with our players, and then I have a video for us. So, one of the things that we try to accomplish with our players to get them to overcome failure faster. With that, we use the traffic light system, so green, yellow, and red as a indicator. Green, as in when we're driving, is go. We love to be moving and don't like to sit at traffic lights. Yellow is that panic zone where we start to get confused on where if we're going to need to stop or if we're going to go. Obviously, us as drivers are in that situation where we look at, it's yellow. Is there any police around? Are we able to get it through the yellow? Do we have to stop? Are we able to go? And then obviously red, we're in a stop situation. So one of the things that we do, I'll show you on my wrist here, is we have green wristbands that we provide to all of our athletes to remind them to stay in the green state. There's multiple things that we do with the green state with our athletes to try to get them back into a green state. But one of the most important things that I believe at the youth level for our kids is to get them to recognize when they're green, they're good, they're mentally strong, they're thinking positive thoughts, and then compared to when they're red and they're stopped, they're dwelling on the past, they're dwelling on a mistake that they just made themselves or their teammates, whatever the case may be, and how we can, as parents and coaches, get them back into a green state. So that's one of the things that we do. There's multiple other things that we do, and as we work with our kids, we try to find routines and habits for them to use small phrases, words, whatever the case may be, to get back to green. One of the things that I do, or one of the things that my son does, and he plays college Division two college baseball, excuse me, um, is that he needs to be the best he can be. He can't be anybody else. He can't be some other guy that came out there and threw 90, whatever the case may be. He needs to be him. So for him, his phrase that he uses and he writes it on the bottom of his hat, also has his green bracelet, is be you. Be the best you can possibly be. So I think that's super important for us as coaches and adults to remind our young athletes is to be you, be the best, be the best athlete, the best person that you can possibly be. All right, so here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to switch us over to John O'Sullivan. It's his TED Talk. It's about 14 minutes long, and then we'll have a small recap at the end, and we'll be good to go for today. So again, thank you for joining us today. Um, Hopefully, the video you get some stuff out of it. Let me get that switched over right now for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Every year in the United States, about 40 million children play youth sports. Yet 70% of those kids drop out and quit by the time they're 13 years old. 3 out of 4 children are done with sports before high school. Now, as a person who's been involved in athletics his whole life, as a college and a professional soccer player, and a coach for the last 20 years, I wanted to know, why was this happening? Why do so many kids quit something that has made such a positive impact on my life? And then about 3 years ago, I realized the answer to that question standing on the sideline of my 5-year-old daughter Maggie's soccer game. Now, if you've ever seen 5-year-old soccer, it's amazing. This is giant scrum of players, and it moves up and down the field, and there's lots of giggling and laughing. Sometimes a player breaks out and scores in the right goal. Sometimes she kicks it in the wrong goal. Twice the chance of success. But it doesn't matter, right? She's happy, parents are positive, everyone's supportive, coaches are positive, there's no referee to yell at. This is what sports is supposed to be. Well, on this particular day, there was a 10-year-old boys game right next door. And it should be just the same, right? But it was completely different. It was a competitive 10-year-old boys game. And I say competitive in quotes because it wasn't the kids who were competing harder, it was the adults. A kid makes a bad pass, the ball gets stolen and the other team scores. And then all hell breaks loose. The coach jumps off his bench. He screams at the kid and he yanks him out of the game. Next, his dad is on the other sideline screaming at him. His friend's parents, they're screaming at him. And as I'm watching this, I'm saying to myself, wow, this is exactly why children drop out of sports. Because sports is supposed to be about children playing and children having fun and learning. And none of that is happening here. Now, I want to just invite you for a moment to get into the mindset of a 10-year-old boy or any young athlete today, because it's very, very different than when I was growing up. You go to a game, and you're just going to play a game, but yet so many of the adults, they're acting like it's the World Series. They're acting like it's the NBA Finals, and you're just there to play a game. There's coaches and parents screaming at you from the sidelines. Sometimes they're screaming at you, sometimes they're screaming at the referee, sometimes they're screaming at each other. Now you get in the car after the game, and you just want to relax and emotionally unwind, and yet this is the time when so many parents choose to deconstruct your game and criticize and critique your performance. Now you sit around your kitchen table, and you hear your parents talking about the time and the financial commitment that it takes to play youth sports. Maybe you'll get a scholarship down the line to help pay for all this. And that just adds pressure and stress. And then finally, at the end of the year, the end of the season, when you're ready to move on to another sport, what happens? Your coach sits you down and says, you can't do that. You're not moving on. Because if you're going to stay on this team, you need to play year-round. And if you don't, I'm going to give your spot away. This is what so many children feel these days, this type of pressure. And that's why 7 out of 10 of them quit youth sports. 7 out of 10 are done. Now, I call this the great giant race to nowhere in youth sports. And it's a race because so many kids and so many parents were in such a hurry to do more at younger and younger ages. And I say it ends nowhere because while we tend to focus on the few athletes who get a scholarship or turn pro, the vast majority end up somewhere else. They end up hating sports. They end up with damaged relationships with their parents. And for some kids, they end up with physical and emotional scars that last a lifetime. We have to end this great race to nowhere. We have to change the game in youth sports. We have to give it back to our kids. And today I want to tell you how we can do that. Now, some people say to me, oh, John, are you the anti-competitive guy? Trophies for everyone, no keeping score, no standings? Not at all. That is not me. I don't believe in participation awards. I don't think every kid who shows up should get a trophy just for doing the bare minimum. And as far as being competitive, I spent the last 20 years coaching elite youth soccer players. I spent 4 of those years as a Division I college men's soccer coach. So I know a little something about competitive athletes. And what I saw on that 10-year-old boys game, and what I see in so many sports all around the country, that is not it. These kids aren't becoming more competitive. They're not becoming better. They're becoming bitter. And they're dropping out of sports, 7 out of 10 of them. Now, what we've come to accept is this new environment in youth sports would never be acceptable anywhere else in life. We'd never accept it in our workplace. We'd never tolerate if our teachers treated our kids like this. And we would certainly never tolerate it if our children treated us in our events like we treat them. Can you imagine what that would feel like in your golf game or your tennis match if our children treated us? Well, our friends at Hockey Canada, they've imagined such a thing. Check it out.
Come on, Dad, focus. Widen your stance a little. Don't slouch. And don't screw up. This is the big league. What are you doing? Keep your eye on the ball. That was pathetic. How sorry doesn't cut it.
Does anyone need that kind of help in their golf game? No. Awesome. So if we're going to change youth sports in this country, the first thing we have to remember is why children play. Now, Michigan State University did a huge study on this, about 30,000 kids. And they asked them, why do you play? And the number one reason why children play sports is because it's fun. They like to learn, they like to be with their friends, they enjoy the excitement, but they don't play because of winning. They like to win, they value winning, but it's not why they show up. It doesn't even make the top 10 on why they play. Now, by the same token, why do children quit sports? Children quit because they're sick and tired of being criticized and yelled at. They quit because they're afraid to make mistakes. And they quit because of an emphasis on winning, which leads to a lack of playing time for so many kids. And for others, it leads to all-star teams and thus cuts at 7, 8, and 9 years old, where we tell kids, you're not even good enough to play. Now, we can change the game in the United States by education. Now, what we do at my organization called the Changing the Game Project is we travel to schools and we travel to youth sports organizations. What we teach people is that the single greatest factor that affects performance is state of mind. And we give people the tools to instill what we call a positive, high-performing mindset in our athletes. We teach them things like accepting your kids' goals and giving them ownership of their experience. We teach them how to praise your kids so it's helpful and not harmful. And we teach them to just let your kids fail and learn from failure. And that actually in the real world, the most successful people are the people who are willing to fail the most. But the single most fundamental thing that we teach, and what I want to teach you today, is something I learned about 10 years ago from a man who's become a great friend and mentor. His name's Coach Bruce Brown. And it's just 5 simple words. I love watching you play. I love watching you play changes everything for your kids. Because what it tells them is that your love for them does not depend on whether they win or lose or how they perform. Now, I know this might seem very simple, but it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. I want to tell you the story of Peter Smith. Peter's a former professional tennis player. He's the men's coach at USC, and he's won 4 national championships in over 500 matches. And Peter, when we crossed paths, he came to me and he said he was struggling because he's got 3 boys of his own, all competitive tennis players. And he was struggling being their coach and their dad. And what he said was what was happening on the court was affecting the whole family off the court. When Peter learned to just let go, when he learned to just love watching his kids play, he said everything changed. His children played harder, they played better, and when tennis was over, they stepped off the court and the whole family life got better. He says it has changed his family so much that sometimes his kids still look at him with a look that says, you know, who are you and what did you do with my dad? I want to also tell you the story of my friend Stephanie Emerson. Stephanie's the mom of 4 athletes. 3 of them are boys. One of her sons actually made the U.S. Youth National Team in soccer. And Stephanie and I were talking when I was writing my book because the whole race to nowhere was just killing her in youth sports. The pressure, the time, the commitments. She said, John, please, give me your single best piece of advice. And I told Stephanie, you know what, Steph? Just tell your kids you love watching them play. So she looks at me kind of funny and she takes a step back. She's like, really? That's the best you got? It's like, John, I'm sorry you're my friend, but you're not going to sell any books with that stuff. So fast forward a year, Stephanie sent me a letter and I want to read it to you today. It says, John, a year ago you told me to simply love watching my kids play. And now it's the only thing I say to the kids. I don't say anything about how they played or wins and losses, just that it's such a privilege and honor to watch them. And it's amazing how each time I say it, it becomes more true and more impactful for even me. It has opened my eyes to a whole other kind of joy and contentment. Stephanie, simply by learning to love watching her kids play, changed everything. Peter Smith changed everything in his family. And you guys can too. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's a one-time thing. And I'm not saying that you won't slip up. Everyone slips up. I slip up. One of the things that kids say is one of their worst memories in youth sports is the ride home after games, because the parents give them a hard time. Well, when my son TJ started playing soccer, I was his first coach. And he shows up at the first game and he steps on the field and goes, Dad, I don't want to play today. And he walks off. I was okay with that. But when he did it the next week, Now I was a little bit upset. Now I was wondering, this isn't so good. I was embarrassed. I'm wondering what these parents are thinking of me. I'm supposed to be this all-star coach, and I can't even get my own kid to play. So we get in the car after the game, and I'm buckling myself in, my son's in the back, and I turn around, I'm like, so TJ. And all of a sudden, wham, karate chop from my wife sitting next to me in the front seat. And she looks at me, she says, really? Didn't you just write a whole book about this? Can you please just drive us home? And I said nothing, and he's played ever since. So it makes a huge difference. So I want to finish with this. I told you about my daughter Maggie's soccer team. This is them. This picture was taken 3 years ago. They're called the Unicorns. My daughter Maggie is the third one from the left. Now when I see this picture and I see the joy on these kids' faces, and I know the powerful impact that sports can have on their lives, not only making them better athletes, but better people, then I know it is time to end this crazy race to nowhere. It's time to change the game and give youth sports back to our kids by fulfilling their needs and their priorities, not ours. And every single one of us can do our part simply by starting with 5 simple words. I love watching you play. And I believe that that's not only an idea worth spreading, but that's an idea whose time has definitely come. Thank you.
All right, thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you got some good stuff out of it. I'd like to recap the video just a little bit for us today, some of the key things that I got out of the video for us to think about. First of all, the stat of 7 out of 10 athletes quit by the age of 13 is also it's a daunting statistic. I think that one of the things that we as coaches and parents need to understand that these kids are young and trying their hardest, and some of them are just not at the ability that we as parents would love them to be at, and it takes time. Kids grow as they get older. The race to nowhere. We're racing these kids at a young age to get somewhere that they're not ready to get to yet. Some of them are not ready for traveling teams. Some of them are not ready for all the pressure. Some of them just need city league and experience. They don't need the traveling teams and so on. Traveling teams are great. If your child is ready for it and wants to play for it, I think it's a great idea. But I also think as parents, we need to understand that some of our children are not going to be the top 5 kids on the team, and that it's going to take them a little bit longer to get to the development that we as coaches and parents would like them to be at. The next 2 questions he asked are, why do kids play? I think the best thing to think about is fun. A lot of us as adults and coaches, some of the things that we remember is the bus rides, the concession stands, the time that we are with our teammates, our friends, and it's not about the wins and losses. Not too many of us remember who we beat, why we beat them, what the score was, whatever the case may be. The next question, why do kids quit? That's a question that I think all of us should really think about a lot, because a lot of kids are quitting because of the pressure that we put on them as parents and coaches. I've really changed my mindset over the years in the aspect of, my kid playing Division II baseball. No matter if they win or lose, no matter if he pitches well or doesn't pitch well, I just truly love watching him play. I'm so proud of him, of what he's done, the fine young man he's turned into, and making sure that he respects himself, his teammates, the officials, his coaches, the other team, and the game to its fullest. That's the biggest thing that I look at, is the respect that he gives everybody else. Our state of mind. The question that John asked, what is our state of mind? Why are we always focusing on just the wins? Now, don't get me wrong. As a fellow coach myself, we want to win. There's no doubt about it. Players want to win also. They get it. I think some of the things that I hear throughout youth sports is, the comment of a parent or somebody, even a coach from the stands, yelling, just throw strikes. These young kids understand that they need to throw strikes. They get it. They know that that's their job if they're on the mound. They need encouragement and positive encouragement from you. Learning from failure. They're playing a sport. If they're playing baseball or softball, if that's the case, and if that's why you're watching this video, golf, there's many other sports. There's a lot of failure within the sport. We all know the statistics of major league players, how they can bat 250, 1 out of 4, and they can make millions of dollars. Our kids need to learn how to fail and overcome failure. Coach Bruce Brown, and I've mentioned this already within what we've talked about. I love watching you play. If you take those 5 words and you use those, no matter win, loss, or whatever the case may be, I love watching you play to your child. It's amazing to see the smile and the appreciation that they get from you. Now, of course, there's time for discipline within our kids. If we have kids that are not respecting the game, not respecting themselves, the teammates, coaches, officials, there's times for conversation. And with that, I'd like to just mention officials and coaches. They have a tough job. I've been an official, still officiate some games from time to time, and I find that it is by far the hardest job that you could possibly do. No matter what, if you make a close call, that official is 50% wrong. There's half of the team, half of the people there, and one of the teams that are not going to like your call. It is a tough job, and we as fans, parents, and coaches need to do a better job of respecting our officials, as it's getting to be a very hard thing for athletic directors, people running leagues to find officials to officiate games because of the negativity that we give them. And then one of the last things that he talked about is the ride home. I was one of those parents. When my kid was younger, I would always critique the game in the car on the ride home. Till I seen this video, till I started doing the research on it and really getting into the mental game of sports. It doesn't help our kids. They know what they did wrong, right? I mean, they know the error that they made, the time they weren't in the right spot, the strikeout they made, whatever the case may be. Give them some time to reflect. I find that, and I heard this from our head coach, Coach Steve Fisher for the baseball team. His son played some college baseball, and during high school, as he was his coach, also Coach Fisher was his son's coach. Um, you always want to right away talk about the game afterwards, and athletes need some time to reflect. They need some time to just let things go, and us as coaches and as parents, we need to give them that time. And I think it's really important for us to then come up to them and say, hey, when you're ready and want to talk about the game, I'm here for you. Let's talk about it. And then have good quality conversations. Don't always find the negative. Find some good things in what they did. What I'd like moving forward is for you guys to take some time to reflect on this video, find some good things that you could take out of the video and help you and as a parent of an athlete and help your athlete become mentally stronger. I have a few resources for you that I'd like to finish off with. One is the book from John O'Sullivan, Changing the Game. This book you can find on Amazon. You can find it on my website too. Changing the Game from John O'Sullivan is an amazing book. I've gone to multiple conferences that John has put on, and he does an amazing job. I myself have written a few books, and 2 books that I'd like to mention today is one, Sports Mastery, Strategies for Thriving Athletics and Beyond. It's the Mind Gym Academy, again, also on Amazon, and you can find it on my website. This book can be for any age kid. It's an easy read. It gives the kids some scenarios on how to be a leader, how to overcome failure, and it also has some reflection questions within each chapter for them to go over. And then just a short book for our coaches. The past, the present, the future, the true meaning of coaching. I know there's a basketball on it, and you're more likely at a baseball or softball parents meeting today. But this relates to any coaches within any sport that you're coaching in. It's a short read, an easy read, and it's good for, I believe, coaches to read. To reach out to me if you have any questions, you can find me on my website. It's themindgymacademy.com. So again, themindgymacademy.com. You can go on there and you can connect with me if you have any questions or would like any additional reading or resources. I also love to post some blog posts on there, some short reads for coaches, parents, and athletes. And then the other thing is on there I have additional videos or resources that you can find of different places that I have found to work for either coaches, athletes, or parents. So again, thank you very much for your time today. Hopefully you got a lot out of this video, and I really look forward to working with your sons or daughters through the Rice Lake program or any other program that I work with. And have fun, make it positive, have a great season. All right, thanks a lot. Have a great day.